Hi everyone, today we're going to be making a pattern coil pot. It's kind of nice, it's fairly easy to make, fairly simple, and it should be easy to glaze. We're going to be able to use lots of different glaze colors when we're glazing it. Okay, so let's get started. We're using white earthenware clay today. You're going to need a plate, and the first thing we're going to do is write our name on it. And our class code. I'm going to just write art because that's me. Okay, then we're going to put that aside. You'll also need a skewer. You'll need a package of clay from Mrs. N, and you're going to get a square that's been cut into 9 little squares or rectangles. You're going to need a circle for the base, and then you're going to need a piece of paper that is the circumference of the circle or the outside edge of the circle so that we can use that as a measure. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our skewer, and again we're going to write our name, not pressing all the way through to the other side, and our class code, and again I'm just going to write a star or art on there so that I know that it's mine, and I'm going to turn it over and put that up here for a while out of the way. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to use this strip of paper to know how long we are going to want to make our 2 edges, the top and the bottom edge. When we're making the edges, we're going to be working on the craft paper to keep the tables nice, but when we're working on the edges, you do need to work right on the work surface because you need some friction. So we're going to start with one of those rectangles of clay, and we're going to just roll back and forth a little bit like this. And then I'm going to use my fingers pressing and rolling until I can get my whole hand into the action, and then both hands and fingers. And we're going to roll and press out and roll and press out. And if it gets too thin in an area, move to another area. And just what I'm doing is I'm rolling my fingers back and forth and smoothing out at the same time. And you can see pretty quickly it's going to make a nice long coil for us, the same length as that piece of paper. And I'm going to put it right up here. I'm going to take a second rectangle of clay, start with my hands up like this. And then again, right on the work surface, not on the paper right now. Everything else, it is kind of important to do on the paper because you don't want it sticking permanently to the table. You want to be able to get it off fairly easily. Now I just ripped that. It's kind of cool because you can just squeeze it back together, roll back and forth, and it becomes a nice coil for you again, okay? Remember, if it's getting too thin or too cracky, just move to another part and roll back and forth. And you should have pretty quickly your 2 coils that are about the same length. If they're not about the same, just pinch it off, okay, and put the rest of the clay aside. Okay, this is going to become our side wall, and I do, while we're talking about this, want to show you that the inside of the cup is going to be smooth, okay, while the outside is going to have this lovely pattern of coils. All right, so we have our top and our bottom, and we still have several pieces of rectangles of clay left. So we're going to start to make a pattern that we're going to put inside. And our pattern pieces are going to be coils like this and coils like this, or you can do all of the same if you want to. I like to mix it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start by rolling back and forth just like I did with my side edges in my hand. And then this one you can kind of do on the craft paper because you're not going as long or as far, but you'll notice just like I was doing with the outside edge, if it starts to get too cracky or too thin, I'm going to just give it a squeeze and roll back and forth again. All right, and for this spiral piece, all you do is just wind it up, okay, like that, okay, and you have a nice spiral. And so I'm going to set it on one of my edges, and that's kind of the height of my wall, okay? Then for the other one, it's equally as easy. You start by rolling back and forth like that until you have a coil. I'm going to roll back and forth like this a bit, okay? And for this one, it's just a zigzag. And these you can put in zigzagging this way or zigzagging that way. It's up to you, okay? And so when I have it the length that I want it, I just start bending it like a zigzag or a curved line like that, press it together a little bit, and then decide which direction you're going to want to put it in your wall, okay? So I'm going to go kind of spiral, zigzag, spiral, zigzag until I reach the end here, and then I'm done actually with creating that wall like that, okay? So you do want to kind of make sure that from one end to the other it's full. Then I'm going to use my leftover clay, okay, the leftover rectangles, and this is going to feel really weird and like we're wrecking it, but what I'm going to do is any place where there's a place like this, I'm going to put just a little pinch of clay. All I'm doing is pinching and smushing, okay, very technical. Pinch and smush like this, flatten maybe a little bit for some of these bigger spaces here, okay? And then we talked about needing our container of water, which I have ready to go, okay? I'm going all the way across, just a little pinch, flatten, smush, wherever there's these bigger spaces, because I don't want it to be big holes in my wall, okay? And then when you're done with that, okay, remember I told you how the inside is smooth of our cup and the outside has this lovely pattern, okay? So this is where your water comes in. Please don't use too much because it's going to wreck it if you do. I'm holding the top and the bottom and I'm using my finger that's just a little wet, not too much, okay? And I'm going to smooth away that pattern so I can't see it anymore. Don't press too hard, please, because you don't want to impact the outside because you want the pattern to stay on the outside, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in just a minute. Okay, so all the way across, you can start smoothing without water at first if you want, and then add the water later, okay? Smoothing, smoothing, smoothing like that until I have a nice smooth wall. And then it's the time when you can, not pressing too hard, please. It's more about smoothing back and forth like you're spreading butter or peanut butter on a piece of bread. Okay, nice smoothing. Try to make sure that this side of the wall is nice and kind of flat too, so that it's easier when you're trying to lift the wall and put it together. Okay, so this actually becomes the inside of your cup. Remember I told you it's nice and smooth on the inside with no patterning. Okay, so we're almost there. A little bit more water, a little bit more rubbing and smoothing, and then the inside of my wall is done, like that quick, that easy. Okay, back and forth and back and forth. And then I'm going to show you, we've talked a couple of times about this being the inside, but the outside has a lovely pattern on it for you. And if you want to, I like to just double check and maybe smooth just a little bit on the bottom here, maybe gently because you don't want to lose your pattern, just a little bit of water so some of that cracking is gone. And then I'm ready to put my pot together, okay? So I'm going back to that circle, and remember, scratch and attach, okay? So I'm gonna turn this back over to the other side, the flat, smooth side, and I'm just going to make a few, very few, don't go too deep, light little lines all the way across, scratching a little bit, okay? All the way across. And then on the outside edge of my circle, same thing, I'm just going to draw some little lines around. And again, to create a little bit of slip, or clay mud, I'm going to go back and forth there and back and forth on the round side. Then making sure your name and class code is down so you can't see it anymore. You're going to lift your wall and wrap it around that circle. I like to push just a little gently so that I'm sure that it connects at the bottom, okay, nicely, and then on the side wall nicely, okay? And so the first thing I'm gonna do is at the top here so that it stays sealed, I'm gonna just blend back and forth so it's all one piece. Then on the side wall, you don't have to lift it up. I'm lifting it up so you can see it in the video. All the way down, I'm going to smooth gently because you don't want that bottom to fall out. Mine's trying to fall out a little bit, like that. And then you're going to turn it over and you're going to blend it so that that bottom stays in there, okay? So what that means is I'm going to be rubbing from the sides over like this, all the way around. Like that. Okay. My bottom is probably a little too thin, but so the next one I make, I'll make it a little thicker. All right. All the way around. And then on the inside, you might want to get a finger wet. And here on the inside, I'm also going to blend so that that bottom stays in there nicely. I'm going to blend on that side wall right here, okay, back and forth until that seam is gone so it stays together nicely. All right, all around the bottom here. And you can even do this with a Q-tip. It works really nicely so that you don't accidentally start splitting the walls, okay? All the way around. Then you might want to get a finger wet and just double check. Is there any cracks that you don't like? Okay, is there any shapes that you don't like? Is the bottom on there well? Okay, check your name and class code, make sure it's still there. I also like to double check that this seam is completely gone all the way around, so it should look like this all the way around. Sometimes I'm using my nail just a little bit right now to create more slip so that that bottom is completely sealed up, okay? So check your bottom, make sure your name and class code is still there. Check the outside. Does it look like you want it to look? Does it look nice? Does your pattern look nice? Are there any cracks you maybe want to smooth over a little bit? Look on the inside. Is there anything you want to seal up a little bit better? Okay. And then you're basically done. You're going to put it on your plate and wait until next time when it's been dried and fired in the kiln, and then you can start thinking about what glazes you'd like to do. Remember, be creative and have fun. Bye.